Okay, ID. So if we're going to talk about a syllabus, the best way that I can communicate what's expected on your syllabus is to go through the one that we're most familiar with, and that's the syllabus for this course. It has the elements that are going to be say evaluated on that rubric for the course syllabus. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through those 7 elements. There's going to be 7 of them, and just try to shed some light and create some clarity on those particular things, why they're there, and the purpose of them, and what they are and what they do. And then, again, it's up to you to present it in your own unique way. It's up to you how you do these things, as long as they're included. The syllabus doesn't have to look like this one. It can be in any form that you would desire, as long as it includes all these items in it. So the syllabus is basically a snapshot of the course. It's a document that someone who wants to get the information necessary about it, they can go and consult it. And of course, it also has all the rules and expectations and all that other important stuff that a student would want to know. And so, a good-looking syllabus is really important in communicating what's contained in the course and what purpose the course has, and any of those things. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to go through the 7 elements, and you can use that as a resource for you to create your own. So the first one here is a course description, and that's in a couple of sentences. What is it that happens in this particular course? And then you have it right there. It's very brief. This is actually the course description that comes in the catalog. I didn't even write this one, but for you may want to just draft a couple of sentences that outlines what it is that is contained, if you're going to describe it in a very concise way. Course outcomes, right here. You've already done those. That's a cut and paste, right? So you shouldn't have to worry too much about that one. You're already fully informed as to what those outcomes are, and all you need to do is just communicate them with the person that's reading them. The text. In this particular course, we had a number of text pieces that we worked from. Clark and Mayer was the one that we used primarily, but we also used a few other of these texts. Do you have one for yours? Well, you're going to want to include that in this particular section. Sometimes you have an optional one. This is this Mayer one is one I clearly would recommend. And in fact, those elements of multimedia, they're actually contained in this one too. It's a briefer paperback, but it's a very good one too, and I would recommend that as well. But then, of course, with the readings, we also had these journal readings, and we had some websites and things like that. So I didn't want to list them all. Right, because that would wouldn't be an efficient use of the syllabus. But I'm just making mention here that there are going to be more readings there, and I wanted to make it very clear to all of you at the beginning that it's not just going to be text readings. It's also going to be readings that are going to come from the web, and they're going to come from scholarly journals. Okay, so that's really important. So those are the first 3 items. The 4th item is learning activities right here, and this is important because you want to give your students a sense of what it is that they're going to be doing and what they're going to be responsible for. And so my intent here was to say, hey, there's going to be reading and writing involved here. We're going to be involved in asynchronous discussions, right? There is going to be an experiential project in there, right? Which is one of the primary reasons we're here. Right, we want to make sure that the students know that up front, right? What they're expected, what's being expected of them, and they're going to want to know that right up front, because if it seems like it's too much work, they might want to drop the course. But these things are ultimately very important. There's things like the concept check. I want to make mention of that up front. A lot of you may have not been exposed to this thing of the concept check, right? But it's important for me to introduce you to that and to give you a sense of what it is and how they work right up front at the very beginning. All right, so that's the those are the learning activities descriptions. Um, when we talk about participation guidelines, what is it that, how are you going to communicate with the instructor? What's going to happen with that? And I mentioned my little policy with the Q&A forum, where it's appropriate, the emails when they're appropriate, right? This is a piece that kind of goes across the board with, I think, with all Quinnipiac courses and this rule of netiquette. It's shown up a couple of times. I wanted to have that in there. Of course, you know, the whole idea of the netiquette was never a problem in this particular course, but nonetheless, it's there, and that's ultimately very, very important. Probably the most important of all of the pieces of information that students are looking for is, how is it that I'm going to be graded? How is that going to work? And I took, you know, a pretty solid amount of time trying to work this out, and of course it's not the most intuitive grading system, and it may be a little confusing. It may still be confusing to some of you, but I did my best to explain here how it is that you know, each of these pieces are worth a percentage. They're worth points, but ultimately they're gonna add up to the final percentage of the final course through this particular system here. We know that you know, the journal is worth 15%, the discussions were at 18, and ultimately it's going to be 40% for the course deliverables and the presentation. That's, you know, if we added it up correctly, it should add up to 100%. I'm pretty sure that does that. So you need a system for grading, and that's very, very important. And then right here, this is ultimately something that's really helpful too, and that's a course schedule. You know, these are the weeks that the weeks that match the particular modules. Are we going to have a journal? Are we going to have a discussion? What's the assignment going to be? The project deliverables that we're going to be working on in any given week. Very important. And that's that. So when we're looking for our syllabus requirements or our pieces of criteria that we're expecting here, it's going to be the course description, outcomes, the text readings if there are any, the learning activities, participation guidelines, the system for grading, and then something of a course schedule. These are all going to be abbreviated with yours because we're only doing 2 modules, right? So as long as you're giving the, you know, the person that's reading this a sense of how your course is going to be put together, that's going to be fine. You know, we just want to have that document in there, and I think you'll be thankful later that you're doing it. So again, if you have any questions or any problems with that, you know how to do it. It's Q&A forum with one another, and then if it's specific questions for me, please drop me an email. All right.